when all the pre-orders come at once. Hello, my name is Emily Crow from Crochet Creations, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Oh no, I've got the hiccups. I love to talk about all things Yarnie, from vlogs to podcasts to tutorials and other experiential type videos. So if you want to stick around for that, I would love to have you. Just make sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell notification to be notified every time I post a new video. I'm trying to fit in as much of this podcast as I can. This is episode 33 because I'm picking up my daughter from daycare in about half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. So my time is limited, so I think I'm gonna do half now and I'll come back and do more later, maybe after dinner or something. We shall see kind of what fits in. At least it is summertime, so it is light out for a very long time. Maybe I can get a little bit more filming done right before my little one's bedtime. Who knows? We'll see. I'm so sorry I have the hiccups. I wish I could do something about them. But let's get right into kind of news for what's going on with Crochet Creations. Oh, and what I'm wearing. This is my ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I did the short sleeve, tighter neckline version, maybe? No, I can't remember. I did the tubular cast on, which was new for me, and I really like it. But I used Treehouse Knits in their organic DK non-superwash base. It's a fairly new base for them, but this colorway is called I Piggybacked from a Pizza Dough Freezer, and I used 2 exact skates for it. It is a smidge too cropped for me, but I still love it, and I managed to make it work with what I've got. I loved working on this. I love the final outcome, and I would love to make more. So that's what I'm wearing. As far as news for Crochet Creations, I just had 2 pattern releases, my Shark Bite socks, both the knit version and the crochet version, that I can share with you here because they are finished objects as well. But I'm so excited to have these patterns released. They were released in conjunction with Sock Week, hosted by Natty, and so super exciting to see all the people who have started making their socks for Sock Week. We are currently in the middle of it. It is July 10th maybe. I'm late to filming this because we were on vacation, but super exciting to see people actually make the pattern that I made. And this has been by far the most successful pattern release, and I know that that's because it's in conjunction with Sock Week, and so it is just so humbling, and I'm so grateful. So those patterns are available. They are linked down below. I have them on my Ravelry shops and on my Etsy shops, and I'll talk about them later. So that's like the big news going on with me. I have a lot of video ideas in the works. Hopefully now that I am done working on these pattern designs that were taking up a lot of my time, I can do some more fun things with videos and stuff as I'm trying to get to a new equilibrium and balance with my family life and my actual job as a nurse and doing this YouTube and content creating stuff. It's a lot, and I'm still working on it. But thank you for sticking around, for being here. We have grown in numbers. It is so exciting. I really hope to reach 1,000 subscribers this year. So definitely, if you love the kind of content you're seeing, let me know down below, and also share with your friends because I really appreciate it. And it just so happens that I have a lot of yarn, like probably the most yarn I've ever had to share with you on this podcast, because it seems like all the pre-orders just came at the same time, and it's been like a month and a half since I last filmed. So I have an embarrassing amount, so stick around if you want to see my yarn haul of all the yarns that have come into my life recently. It's very exciting. I have a lot of projects in mind, and hopefully I can make time for the things that are really bringing me a lot of joy right now. But keep an eye out, because that'll be after I talk about all the projects that I've been working on. Without further ado, let's get into finished objects. Alright, so June was like an all socks all the time kind of month for me. I do have one project that I finished that's not socks, but I used sock yarn. So all socks all the time. But the first finished object that I had was my blueberry waffle socks. This is using the colorway Cup of Cozy with this cute bubble gum pink mini that came with it in the sock set from Kimber's Cozy Creations. This is their DK sock base, which is really fun. There's not a lot of DK sock bases out there, so it was really fun to try. Really nice and plump. I love it. This pattern also is really plump. I did more stitches than I normally do for my DK white socks because it's what the pattern called for, and they are a little loose. So they're definitely gonna be cozy house socks. And as a result, I made the foot length very short so that to account for extra room width-wise my foot, these socks will have to stretch a lot this way so that it'll kind of thin out the sock, if that makes sense. So these are very short for me, but they work out just fine and they fit just fine. And I love this color. It's so happy and springy. And this blueberry waffle sock pattern is free, but it's also really simple to modify. And so I definitely see myself doing this again, but changing the stitch counts and making them fit my feet better, whether for DK or modifying it for a fingering weight pattern, we'll see. But that's the first FO. And I just bulldozed through those because for some reason I just felt like I was not getting the serotonin rush. I needed to finish a project, and so these ones got knocked off my list really quickly. I worked on those mostly when my daughter was sick and home from daycare, and so there wasn't a lot else I could do. So glad to knock those out of the way. Another pair that I finished, these are my Desert Vista Dyework socks for June. I've been doing the monthly sock club, knitting a pair of socks or something comparable every month using their yarn. I decided to knit socks. I used a heel flap and gusset, which I don't always do, especially with the self-striping yarn, but I had it kind of match up almost perfectly with just using it on the heel turn and the heel flap. You can see there's like a one row of yellow that made it onto the foot as I was picking up stitches along the edge of the heel flap. It's fine. I don't really care. I did mean to use a mini with this until I'd already taken my picture and cast it on, and then I realized, oh, too late. So I made them as is. This color is called Wine Country, and it is beautiful. I love it. There's just such a variety in the tones, but they all work really, really well together. It is so pretty. So I have that pair too that I finished, and I love them. I think that short row heels are really fun to do, but I also feel like heel flap and gusset fit me a little bit better, but I should do some experimenting, I think, with how my socks fit to kind of find the perfect fit for me. That's kind of the plan. Ultimately, I just am working on socks too fast to be able to slow down and like try out something new, which is my own fault. So I have those two socks. I have my own pattern designs. I'll just keep the sock train going. And so for this pattern, I had one sample completed and I'd done a lot of frogging and working on it in order to have it ready for testers. And then while my testers were working on their socks, I was also working on my second sock. These socks have not been blocked, and they've honestly been like scrunched up in a ball at the bottom of my basket for like a week and a half. Once the pattern was done, I just kind of ignored them, but I definitely need to block them. Yeah, they're all like crumpled. Not the best portrayal of my pattern. This is the crochet version. And let me pull up the knit version for you. So here is the knit version, and if you see them side by side, they are practically identical, which I'm super, super proud of. They both feature a round toe, it's a toe-up design, round toe, a heel flap, and gusset, and the striping occurs in the same spots. So you could theoretically have a pair of socks where one was knit and one was crochet, which I think some people might intend to do. This was really hard. Not to like toot my own horn, but I'm a lot more comfortable knitting socks. I've only crocheted one pair of socks previous to writing this pattern, and I gave myself a very hard task with matching up visually how they looked, matching techniques, because that's something I really wanted to do, matching the gauge so that I could size the pattern up and down easily, comparable to the knit sock pattern, whose stitch counts I'm very familiar with as a sock knitter, and working with the gauge differences because crochet stretches a lot this way and not very much this way, So I had to account for that in like the way I made my heel and other instructions. I have lots of modifications included within the pattern. So if you're having a hard time getting the right fit you're looking for, hopefully those modifications and those fit guidelines will help you to find a great fit for your crochet sock, despite the fact that the fabric doesn't move in the same way that knit fabric does, which is a lot more forgiving of fitting a variety of feet. So I finished and I'm so proud of myself. It was really hard and I really haven't had a lot of brain space to work on other knitting projects, so I don't have a lot of other things to share with you, but it feels so good to have those done. I need to block those today. I should just block them and get them nice and clean and ready, and ends woven in too, it looks like. Whoops, I didn't weave in my ends on this one. They're basically done and we'll count it done, but there's a little bit more work that I need to do. Oops, too bad I forgot about them. I pushed them up to the side. I was ready to move on, but gotta finish those up. Okay, my last finished object is not a sock. It is a gnome. I think everything has been completed with this mystery knit along, so I'm going to show it in case you don't want spoilers. I guess I'm giving you a heads up, but I don't think there should be any spoilers because I think it's been released now in its entirety. But this gnome, oh, he's so cute. Let me pull it up. Where is this one's name? I can't remember. So this gnome is called The More You Gnome. This is a mystery knit along by Sarah Shearer that was going on in June. I'm really glad I made the time to work on him because he's so cute. Look at this ginormous nose and these cute little like leggies and arms. This hat was mosaic knitting and it was really fun to do, though it did take a while. There's a cute little tassel. Something interesting that I don't know if they did previously. I've done 2 other mystery gnomes. You can see them right there. But they actually didn't tell me what I was making at first. And so at first I started with the brim. I didn't know it was brim. It was just a long piece of fabric. And then later on I picked up stitches and began the actual hat part, so I knew it was a hat. I randomly did, I think, like 1 random leg in like clue 2, and I didn't come back to complete the other leg and find out what that piece was until like clue 5 or something. Like it was kind of weird and a little bit jumbled, a little bit more mysterious than I remember it being in the past, but he's a cutie. I used some Daisy Stitch Co. yarn for this yellow, this honey yellow, and then this like mauvey rosy color. These are 2 mystery colors that I got in like a mini skein set, and so I don't know what they are, but they're from Daisy Stitch Co. The white I used was Stroll, Knitpicks Stroll, and their bear color. I don't think I purchased the white. I think I purchased the bear color because it was cheaper and not quite a stark white, and so I liked the tone of it a little bit better because it's slightly more cream of a white. So I think that's what it was. So this is my other finished object. I was definitely behind. It definitely snuck up on me, but I caught up pretty quickly because this was kind of a focus outside of working on my sock patterns. So really glad to have that done. So cute. Oh my goodness. I love doing the gnome knit along. I have yarn set aside for the one I missed in December, so hopefully I can get to that one, but I need to keep an eye out for whatever the next one will be in a few months. So fun, so fun. Have you ever done a mystery knit along? Have you ever done like a small one, like a gnome like this? Let me know if you participated. I think it's so fun to be able to do these online mystery knit alongs or crochet alongs. I think it's a really fun experience to share with other makers, and so I definitely want to get involved with more of them. Oh, I have one more finished object that I totally forgot about. This is housing one of my whips, so that's why I forgot about it. But this is Yarn Cozy Light by Knitty Natty, and I had knitted one last month. I think I showed it last month, but I had 2 different colors from Daisy Stitch Co., that mystery bundle that I finally was getting around to, and I decided to swap the colors from the I-cord and the body of the Yarn Cozy for my second one so that they kind of coordinate with one another, but not exactly match. So this is the one I made. This one kind of felt like it took a lot longer, but this is it. Ta-da! And it's this fun like rainbowy color. Rainbow. It's interesting to see how the color pools. You can see it with like that yellow and reds kind of makes like a chevron type of shape, which is really interesting. I don't know how well you can see. This color definitely has a lot more going on, and so it's harder to see the textural details, but with the yarn skein in it, you can see better the cables. I did a cabled version for my previous one, but I kept my cables in the same columns as written by Natty in her pattern. This time I alternated, and so instead of keeping all the twisted stitches like vertically stacked, whenever it was a cabled round or a twisted stitch round, I just alternated. They were kind of spaced out a little bit more, and when there's no yarn in the cozy, it's really hard to see that texture. So this is like the best it's gonna be. It's not incredible, like not my best choice of yarn for pattern, but it was nice to use up some of that yarn because I didn't really see myself using it for another pair of socks or anything. Got to use up some yarn. Last time I told you how much yarn I would use, I measured it. It's 11 grams for this 100-gram knit cozy. You can get a lot of mileage out of your scraps by working on yarn cozies, and it's been really, really handy to be able to hold my yarn in place. And I love pulling my yarn from the center. I had a viewer mention that they don't pull from the center, like no one in their country does. So I wonder if it's a cultural thing, but I really like pulling from the center of my skein because I really like what happens with the skein when the inside is gone and it kind of like deflates. I don't know, it just is very satisfying for me, more satisfying than pulling from the outside of the skein. So I like having a yarn cozy to kind of hold the skein in place so it doesn't make a huge mess, but I can still center pull, and I really like that. That is my actual final finished object. Let's move into my works in progress. For some reason, I'm not sick of socks right now. Probably just I'm sick of my own pattern and like all the thinking. But if someone else can do the thinking for me, then I am all on board. Let me show you what I've got in store. Start with this one. This is finally my July socks by Laura Moritz. I know I'm finally starting them, hoping to finish this month in July. I've had this on the docket for a couple of years now. 2 years ago, I had recently started knitting and I discovered this pattern, purchased it, whatnot. Last summer, I had made it a goal to make it, didn't make it. This summer is finally happening. This lace pattern is really fun. This is exactly one pattern repeat. The yarn I'm using is from Explorer Knits and Fibers. This one is called Moonstone, and I can't remember, maybe this is called Untamed. But it's this beautiful pastel, really pale, like blues and pinks and peaches. Really beautiful color. So I'm really excited to see how these work up. It's been fun to work on. I'm trying to follow the pattern as written, and even though it included things like this pearl bump, which I'm not necessarily like all on board for, but it's part of the design elements. And so for this first run through of making the pattern, I'm gonna follow the pattern pretty much exactly. I might alter a few things for fit, but for style, I'm gonna keep it as the designer intended and see how I like it. Because there's some design choices for patterns I followed that I didn't necessarily want at the very beginning, but once I made them and worked up the whole pattern, I realized that I really liked those features, like more so than other parts of the pattern. So gonna keep it like it is. It'll be fun, it'll be different. I'm excited to do some lace, and I'm excited to get these socks off my to-do list because I've been wanting to make them for a long time, but I have a lot more work to do. So we'll see, hopefully I can get them done this month. But I'm balancing a couple other things as I'm trying to focus down on what I want to actually do now that my obligations are relaxed and I have done everything that I need to do with my pattern releases. Like I said, I wanted someone else to do the thinking, and I am so grateful to finish my sock designs. I was able to volunteer for a pattern test, and I've already done almost the whole pair, even though it's not due for another like week or so, because I took them with me on my vacation that I went on last week, and I knit the first sock in 2 days. So pretty crazy. This is the Stripes for Days sock pattern by Northwoods Knit Co. by Carly. I have test knit for her before. I have a couple other patterns that I've knit of hers. I always really like testing for her. This sock is cuff down. She had previously written this pattern toe up. It was one of her earlier patterns in her Vanilla Plus collection. She realized that people actually really like cuff down, so she's going back and she's adding the cuff down version. I'm using Kimber Cozy Creations for this, and I think it's the February mystery sock set colorways. So this main color, I'm pretty sure it's called Fresh Bouquet. I'm not sure what the other two colors are, but this all came together. This mint green, this like deep mauve-y red, and then the main color, which is inside my yarn cozy. So that's one sock done, and I am partway, I'm like halfway done with the foot of the other sock. Ta-da! So I have done the first green stripe. So I'm about here. I have only that much left to go. And what's really funny, I decided to work on this first sock on our trip. I could have started the second sock, but I was being really careful about measuring my yarn. And so I finished the first sock on our trip, waited all the different colors when we got home, and then I could start the second sock. I decided to start the second sock as my sock for Sock Week 2023. I wanted to participate, and I did not expect to get as far as I did yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday. I did not expect to get as far as I did, but I might need to plan another sock to do because Sock Week goes from Sunday through the next Sunday. So I can definitely have this sock finished. If not today, it'll be finished before the weekend. And even though I'm working 3 12-hour shifts this week before the weekend, I'll still have Saturday and Sunday to work on a sock. So I might work on another sock. I'm not sure. I need to figure that out, but this sock is really close to being done. I forgot to mention, you may notice there's like a little bit of a ribbing. This is one of the pattern additions or add-ons included. I'm doing like a little garter rib on both the front and back of the sock just to add a little bit of something extra. It's been fun to add that in. So this has been a really fun pattern to work up, and I love these colors. So fun. Love, love, love. And one of the things that I think I have a hard time with fitting my socks, this is a Fish Lips Kiss heel. I like how it fits on my heel, but I feel like my sock is a little too loose up here. So after knitting this sock, which I haven't done a Fish Lips Kiss heel in a little while, I think I understand better what I don't prefer about this fit. So hopefully the next socks I make, I can try to maybe decrease my stitches or something so they can be tighter immediately above my heel, maybe so it can hug a little better. Maybe the reason I like the heel flap and gusset is because this is made to stretch in a different way, so maybe I like how it fits around my ankle a little better, not as loose. I don't really know. We'll have to find out. So let me know if you do any weird modifications for your sock fit and how you do that so that I can start to experiment a little bit, because I think that this project, even though I love it, has reminded me that I need to do something a little bit different to optimize my sock fit. But I love how it turned out. I did take out some of the stripes because it was just getting way too long. And I'm gonna tell Carly that it is very long. I'm not sure if there was like a misprint or something with my size is like a traditional women's medium, like a 64 stitch count size, and so I don't think it needs another 2 inches of sock on top of this, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I just have short legs and so I did not want it longer, but I don't know, we'll see. But I'm in love with this. Next one is almost done, so I can move on to another pair of socks. Probably I should move on to my July socks, probably. My only other whip is my Perfectionist Trap Shawl, which, am I in the middle of the row? Okay, good. I'm not in the middle of the row. I didn't mark off where it was last time, but it's coming along very nicely. I now have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stripes, 9 slip stitch stripes. I'm getting there. I definitely have a few more to go, and I've got a bit more yarn to go, but honestly, this is still quite a bit of knitting. It's just been slow going, and it's been really fun. This is again in Kimber's Cozy Creations. This is like Kim's episode. I love Kim. So this is the color Unicorn Dreams 2.0, and you'll even see, because every skein of hand-dyed yarn will appear a little bit differently. You can see that the color variation, this one on top definitely looks more blue, and the one on bottom is more pinky purpley. And that's just how hand-dyed yarn is. I definitely am glad that I decided to alternate skeins because you cannot tell at all that the two skeins are not like identical to each other. It's just like been really fun to work up. Something really simple with the garter and the slip stitch. I think that this is going to be a really fun piece when I finish it, and it'll be really satisfying to finish two skeins. I think that this could probably be done this month, but I also have some other things that I need to work on. Like, I have not cast on my Desert Vista Dyework socks, and last month I barely finished in time, so I think I should really get a move on. But I also don't know exactly what I want to do for them, because I do want to do something a little bit different. I'm getting a little bored, but I need something that's still easy. So, choices, choices, choices. Also, I have yarn that I'm going to use for Stephen West's new Contrast Blast socks. I'm gonna do the Amical. I am behind because last week I was on vacation, and so I just wound these up today. Hopefully later today I'll get a chance to look at the pattern and start. I had some spoilers, which I'm a little bummed about, but I think it's a top down, like a cuff down sock, so I'll be able to crank out a cuff. I'm thinking, based on what his recommendations were, I think that the pink will be the main color and the creamy speckled color will be the contrast. But we'll see, I guess, what I end up choosing. It just seemed like he really poo-pooed on speckled and variegated yarns. He said use them at your own risk because they could muddy up the contrast. I'm trying really hard to pick high contrast colors, and I think he said for your contrast color to use the speckled or variegated yarn that you choose. So that's what I'm doing. These are both from Woolberry Fiber Co. from the Anne of Green Gables collection. This one is Raspberry Cordial, and this one is Flower Crown. So I had planned to make a project with them. I was thinking maybe like a brioche something or other. I just thought that they would go really well together, and in person, they contrast even more than I thought they did online. There's definitely like subtle pink blush thrown throughout this pattern, so they definitely still coordinate, but I think that they'll be really good for some contrast socks. So again, more socks on the docket. I am filming a vlog about my process of doing this mystery knit along, so if you are interested, make sure to keep an eye out for my vlog that is coming at the end of the month. Also, let me know if you're participating in the Stephen West MCAL. I like kooky socks, but I don't necessarily like super zany shawls, and so I felt like this MCAL was a lot more manageable and a lot easier to fit into my personal knitting style than his shawl designs that he comes up with. So I wanted to do this mystery knit along, but I also feel like not a lot of people have been participating. So I don't know, let me know. I would love to talk to you about your yarn choices if you are participating in that MCAL. It's actually perfect timing for me to go and get my daughter from daycare. So I think I'm gonna pause here and we'll get back to all my Yarnie goodies after this quick break for you. And I'll also talk about books I've been reading, things I've been doing. I can talk about my vacation that I just came back from, all the good things. So I'll see you in just a second. Hello, we're back, and it is now just after bedtime. My daughter was just put down. She's upstairs, so hopefully she won't hear me too well, and we can just do this, because I have a lot of yarn, and I feel like I said that last time, but this time I have a lot of yarn. It's a little embarrassing, but they're all things I'm really excited about, and I'm really grateful to be able to support these small makers and to share them with you. Some of them are new to me, some of them are anticipated collections and things, so let's get right into it. We'll be really fast, and just again, like, I'm really grateful that I have a job and I can afford to buy yarn and support these small makers, but you can be an amazing crafter without purchasing yarns at a higher price point. With all that said, let's get right into this. I actually got some yarn mail today in between when I first filmed the first half and right now, so I'll start with that. I just got this in the mail. It's from Stress Knits, and Stacey is not doing a lot of dyeing right now. She's just got a lot of other things going on with her family and stuff. And so it was really special that she did this in stock collection, Taylor Swift inspired. This color is called Afterglow. It is so pretty. The yellows and pinks and all sorts of other colors. I grabbed this specifically because I have a mini set from Stacy that I thought might go really well with this, which I should pull out right now. Okay, it's all crumpled, but this is the Daffodil mini set that I ordered from her a while ago when she was doing her flower club. So that was last year maybe. And I thought the colors would go really well together and I could do like a shawl project or something with it. I was waiting for a variegated color from Stacy to use these yarns with, and I thought these would be a perfect match. So really happy about that. So yay, I don't know exactly what I'm gonna make, but a shawl project of some sort. These yarns and this. I bought two just to be safe. We'll see what I use. Other like special goodies, we're gonna talk about Sock Week stuff. So I didn't make a lot of purchases for Sock Week, but I did buy this beautiful sock set from Rising Tide Fiber Co., which I'd not heard of before, so it was really fun to find a new to me dyer. This colorway is called Jellyfish Jubilee. So fun. It's not quite as vibrant as it looks on screen. It's like, it looks fluorescent on screen, but it's still really, really bright. I don't know if I'm ever gonna get it like exactly right. Anyway, but such a beautiful, fun color scheme. And I also got their Mermaid Lagoon candle. Yum, 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 yum. It doesn't say what hints are in it, but it's yummy. So I should light that tonight while I'm working on my sock knitting. That would be fun. Both of these are from Rising Tide Fiber Co. in conjunction with Sock Week 2023. So purchase these. Maybe I should do this as my next Sock Week project. Make some shorties or something, because that'll still count and I can use this fun yarn. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll do the other pattern, the Affinity socks that Carrie designed. She was the other pattern designer featured for Sock Week. So maybe I'll do her socks. That would be so fun. I also got for Kimber's Cozy Creations, this is Kim's episode. For Kimber's Cozy Creations, she does a monthly sock set club. You can buy the sock set, or you can buy a single skein of that main color, or you can buy self-striping, so there's options. And you can also get goodies to go with your purchase, or you can get them yarn only. And so there's this monthly sock club that have an inspiration photo that you see, and then you can decide whether or not you want to purchase the yarn. And so I've been kind of doing it off and on. That's where I got the yarn that I'm using for my Sock Week project, and the pattern test that I showed you earlier, the Fresh Bouquet or Bouquet, whatever that colorway is called. I decided to order June's colorway, and this is called a Honeycomb. Such a pretty yellow with some really subtle speckles. You can see them on the back, really subtle speckles. And this beautiful, this purple and this blue is so fun. It's like a bee with flowers was the inspiration. So pretty. And I'm facing a dilemma because I'm trying to find the perfect yarn to make the Humblebee socks, and I want it to be like a honey yellow, like a bee yellow, but I want it to be a little bit more interesting than just like a solid color, like a stroll yarn. And so I'm trying to find like a tonal that will still show the texture but also not be boring to work with. This might be the one. I'm not sure. I did order something from Woolbury Fiber Co. that's not come in yet that could fit the bill. So I'll have to compare all my yellows once I have them all in front of me and decide what I want to do for my Humblebee socks. But this is a contender for sure. Honeycomb. And then I decided to get the goodies. And so I got some stitch markers that I think Kim made herself. Some cute bees. A little pin. And this made my jaw drop when it came in the mail. This is from War Queen Studio, and I knew that they'd have something special to go with this monthly sock club for this month. Part of the goodies they would contribute to, so I knew I had to get it because I wanted to see what it was. And it's this stitch marker with a literal bee inside it. I don't know if that's focusing at all. There's a literal bee. That is crazy. I love that. So I reached out to the maker to find out the story of this, and apparently she and her husband have a bee farm, and they collected the dead bees that were on their farm after last season, I guess, and used them to make these resin stitch markers. super, super cool that just the story has meaning too in their bee farm. So I thought that was so neat. So really cool to have that. I don't always get the goodies either because I don't need like a ton of stitch markers, but if there's something that is intriguing to me, then I'll get it. Same kind of philosophy with getting the sock set in general. Like if I really am inspired by it, and there's 1 month that I missed out, that I decided I'm gonna pass, and I regret it. So I'm definitely gonna buy it at the end of the year. That's when Kim is releasing all these colorways again for a pre-order, so that you can participate if you missed out on something, or if you ordered the striped yarn and you want the variegated next time. It'll be there for you, and I will definitely be shopping that pre-order. We are moving through this. I have some yarn from a dyer I have not purchased from before, so I'm really excited about this. They do regular updates on their Etsy shop, but they have some colorways that are Pride and Prejudice inspired. And if you were listening to my last podcast, then you know that I'm kind of in like a Pride and Prejudice Austen-y mood. And so I jumped at the chance. I took a look and I picked a couple colorways that were really speaking to me, and I have them here. I also grabbed mini skeins to go with them. The dyer is none other than Nomadic yarns. They do a lot of self-striping colorways. Let me share first the names of these minis. So cute. This one's Sand. This one is Dried Thyme, as in the herb. And this one is called Kiki Blurple, as in like Kiki's Delivery Service, which was my favorite growing up. I watched it on repeat. Perfect dark, dark purple. And what I really like about what this maker does is list the very specific colors that are in their self-striping yarns, so that you can order the exact same colors for your minis, like exactly the same. Because I've done it with other self-striping dyers where I'll order, it says it's got like rose as a color stripe, so I order a rose mini and it's not quite the same color, but these are a really good match. And I tried to pick ones that would kind of blend really well across the board. I bought Sand to go with. This is called the Shades of Pemberley. So this will be kind of like a more subtle, but there's definitely some tan in there. And then the next color I got was called Bennett Sisters, and I'm gonna hold Dried Thyme with it for contrast. This one is called Most Ardently. And I'm gonna hold Kiki Blurple with it because it's got that same purple. The lighting I feel like is not showing up from what I can see on the camera, but hopefully you can see it better, and I'll notice when I'm going back through and editing that the color you can see a little bit easier because there's lots of color stripes. So I actually was able to order 50-gram skeins and 100-gram skeins, which was great for cost saving since I don't need 100 grams to make my socks, especially if I have minis. So it was really nice to be able to try out the colors. I can make my socks, and I can even make the size socks I want, I'm pretty sure, or like tall ankle socks, and I can still get what I want. I was not able to order 50 gram because it's like in stock purchases, so I think that this color was maybe gone or something, I don't know, but I love them. I'm really excited to try this yarn. I've never tried this dyer before, but I just had to get some Pride and Prejudice yarn, and these colors were speaking to me. As I'm looking at them, there's some common themes of like a mint green running throughout, which is one of my favorite colors. So there you go. And there's also like a rosy pink in these two. So yeah, there's some common color themes that are spread throughout these colors, and there's a reason why I bought these ones. Oh, and the base I got was just their 80/20 Super Rush Merino and Nylon base, their Twisty sock base. They do have a yak sock yarn, which I am intrigued to try because yak yarn is more brown toned, so I'm excited to see like how the colors look different, so maybe I'll try that one of these days. Speaking of sock yarn, I order a lot of sock yarn, but not all for socks. I just really find it versatile. So I got my next order from Long Dog Yarns, one collection to rule them all. So this is part 2. So I have 2 skeins of this color, which is the Deep Breath Before the Plunge. It's like a greeny, like a minty, greeny, beigey, creamy color. I have the shawl design in mind, and I bought 2 skeins with this shawl design in mind, and then as I was working on another shawl and figuring out yarn, I realized just how much yarn I actually needed to get the size I wanted. So I ordered 2 more skeins on the part 2, the second take of that collection, to make sure that I would have enough for that crochet shawl design. And then I also bought this sock set. This is the La Florian sock set, and I just think that these like colors are so moody. I think it might have the White Wizard as the mini. I can't remember. It doesn't label it, but it was just fun. It was different because I do like myself a good moody color, but usually it's like reds and oranges and purples. So having like a blue moody color is a little bit different, and I like it a lot. And I just recently rewatched Lord of the Rings, like all of them. We watched the extended editions, and I have such a greater appreciation for the story and all the intricacies, and I really want to read it. Part of me is nervous because they are so long, and Tolkien writes very, very high fantasy, and because of the time that it was written too, like just the language, the prose is going to be more difficult to get through, I think. And so part of me wants to get physical copies of the book so I can go really slow and take notes and do all the things, really digest it. But the other half of me thinks that maybe I just need to plow through it on an audiobook so I can make sure I actually finish and get the story. I don't know. What do you think? Have you read The Lord of the Rings or any of Tolkien's stuff? I've read The Hobbit twice. Once with my husband. We would like sit in a hammock when we were dating, engaged, newly married. We would sit in a hammock. That was kind of like our fun free date to do, is we would go set up a hammock and sit in it and read a couple chapters. So that was really fun. So we read that. I think we finished it, and I'd read it once prior to that, I think, but I can't quite remember. My new Lord of the Rings yarn. I'm kind of burnt out on pattern design after having 2 sock patterns at the same time, running tests with a strict deadline. I'm a little burnt out. So I'm gonna be leisurely working on that shawl. When it gets here, it gets here. We'll see, but it is crochet, so it'll work up pretty fast. I already have the pattern basically written because I have a similar pattern that is being released in a book, and they've encouraged us to make other patterns that are related to the patterns in the book. Like, they haven't barred us from designing similar types of items, and so I'm just using a different weight of yarn, different gauge, a little bit different style, but it'll be fairly similar to that design in the book. And so most of the pattern's already written, so I have a really good idea of what I'm doing. So it'll be pretty easy to just like sit down and work on for a while. So we'll see when that happens. The next yarn I have to share with you is from Red Dwarf Fiber Co. Focus, focus, focus. Or as I like to call Red Dwarfs, because that's what their handle is on Instagram, Red Dwarfs. They did a Princess Bride collection with a lot of pastels. So Red Dwarf plus Princess Bride plus pastels was like everything I love. So I made sure to buy some, and I was having a really hard time deciding what to get. And so I just got 5 colors that I loved, and they all happened to make the perfect fade. Oh, like, I don't know how well you can see that. But the variegated's the perfect middleman between the 2 colors. 5 colors. Okay, so what I got. This is truly, you have a dizzying intellect. Red Door also does a great job with their colors. They have great yarn bases. I love the feel of knitting with their yarn. I knit a pair of socks with their yarn, and it blew me away. I loved the feel of it. And they have some really funny, really interesting names. So, truly you have a dizzying intellect. Shortage of perfect breasts. Pity to damage yours. They go hand in hand. And then no one of consequence. And get used to disappointment. So yeah, I just picked, I think I was thinking maybe I'll make like a color block top out of this. And then I was like, maybe I'll make some socks out of this. So I just bought one of each of these colors, but they go so well together. I might do like a patchwork pullover. It would be lower contrast, but I think I would love it because I adore all these colors. I might do that. Maybe I should start doing like little swatches or something to see, but like, I would love that. So that's a big thought that I have in mind, but we'll see. I am really itching to cast this on because this is just making me so happy, and I would love a project with all this yarn. Now that having it next to each other, I just feel like it belongs next to each other. We are getting close to the end. Here's another dyer I've not purchased from before. It's Easy Textiles. And they had like a garden collection of some sort. I'd looked at their yarns before and I had not made a purchase yet, but I made a purchase this time because these colors were too good to pass up. This color is called Shade Garden, and Delphinium went with it. And I also got the mohair versions of both those colors. I have another shawl design in mind, and it's mostly like, it's kind of like a shawl workshop almost. Like, I really wanted to see how blending the colors together, putting this mohair, variegated mohair with variegated yarn versus variegated over the tonal versus the tonal over the variegated, or the tonal with the tonal. I just thought it'd be fun to do kind of like a pseudo fade with all these colors, to kind of just play around with the yarn and kind of experiment to see what would happen. I think that it would be really fun to just try it out. And it would be very educational just to see. I had people ask me before about picking mohair or suri fluff, basically, to go with other yarn, like how you pick. And I've had one project that was super successful that I loved, but I would love to learn a little bit more about pairing yarns together in colors. So I kind of wanted to do something fairly simple, but kind of swapping colors and trying it out just to see, because I love these colors. So, shawl design coming in the future. Maybe a blog design? I don't know. Okay, we're on the penultimate, the second to last one. So, I just got this one in the mail too. This is Treehouse Knits. I've purchased from them before. I am wearing Treehouse Knits right now. Lauren is a master of color, and she makes colors so unique that I've never seen before. It's just amazing to see the kind of things that she creates. She's got a lot of skill. So, I decided to get 3 skeins of Zephyr. You can see a little bit more on this skein. There's even some blue in there. So pretty. So yes, I got 3 skeins to make some kind of top, or if I hold this with something else, I could definitely make a sweater with it. Not quite sure. I'm kind of in the point where like I'm buying like top or sweater quantities of things without having a specific plan, which is like probably not the best idea, but like I do want to make more tops and sweaters, so I'll get there somehow, right? And then I also bought, this is Dusk, this beautiful purple, and it actually goes really well with Zephyr. So maybe I'll do something related to that. I don't know. Or like if I have extra yarn left over, I can make socks. I don't really know. And then I also got another Galaxy, because this color is so fun. And these were marketed together as like the sock set. I don't think the purples match perfectly, but they could still be a really fun pairing together. So we'll see. I might swatch them together, see how I like them. But this one's really fun. And this is a beautiful purple. And this variegated is so complex and unique, and I love it. My last dyer, this one actually came in quite a while ago, like right after my last podcast filming. So this is Coast to Coast Yarn Co., who I've also purchased from in the past, and I really love their colors and their dye style. This colorway, and it's so hard to tell with the lighting that we've got going on, but this is called Mildred and Gwendolyn. They did like a classics or a greatest hits type of collection. It's like this warm beige, white cream with some like pink blushy bits. I just thought that this would make the perfect top. So again, I bought a top slash sweater quantity if held together. It's so pretty, and I actually think it'll look really good on my skin tone, to be honest. Like, it's pale enough, and I've got enough other colors going on in my skin, but maybe that's because I'm sunburned from the beach. We'll see. But I really love this color. So warm and lovely. And this is actually non-superwash yarn, because I made this out of non-superwash yarn and I loved the knitting experience of the feel of that yarn in my fingers, on my needles, as I knit the stitches. So I wanted to do it again, but this is Coast to Coast Yarn Co.'s non-superwash, so that makes the colors even more soft. And I'm excited to see what I end up making. Maybe I'll make another ranunculus. We'll see. I also got this sock set, beautiful purples. This is Sled Dog. This one will not behave itself. My husband loves huskies, loves huskies. So I wanted to get this colorway, maybe make some socks for him. He also does like the color purple too. There's lots of really fun speckles. It definitely looks like it would micro stripe or maybe have some interesting pooling. So we'll see. And the button is the mini skein color, but I really love this color and the meaning with the sled dogs. I just thought that I could make something for my husband too. He does not wear hats, but he will wear socks that I knit him. So maybe it'll become some shorty socks for both of us. Who knows? The final project I have yarn for at the moment is some worsted weight yarn, right? Yes, BFL worsted. Ooh, 100% superwash BFL. Blue Face Luster. So I've got Yucca Blossom, and this is Parrot Waxcap. These weren't originally designed to go together. They're from different collections, but they work really well together. They pulled that green out. So pretty. I want to make a Harlow worsted hat out of these, which is really funny because I have the yarn over here to do a Harlow hat, and it is also Coast to Coast Yarn Co. So I just need to cast on because I'm in a brioche mood. At least that's what my project plans tell me. Super pretty combo. I really almost got the sock set, but I wanted to make a hat too, and so I chose the hat instead of the sock set. So I need to make it. I just thought this would be so fun. These colors together, so unique compared to anything else that I have in my like accessory wardrobe. And that's not from this podcast. So hopefully I can cast that on soon, but we'll see. So yeah, that's my yarny everything basically. There's a lot of yarny things, and there's definitely more coming. I have quite a few adventy things in the mail, and what really got me was some of them were offering like a book to go with the advent for like cozy vibes, and I just couldn't turn it down. So we got a few advents to choose from for the end of the year, but I'm done buying advents. And I do have a couple other pre-orders that are gonna trickle in over the next couple months, but I really need to get off Instagram so that I don't buy a lot more yarn, especially because right now is the Utah yarn crawl, and so I'm buying yarn for that, and I'm hoping to go to some fiber festivals in October, so be buying yarn for that too. Yes. So I need to kind of mind my purchases in preparation for those big things that I'm planning, but lots of good things in the works. We'll see kind of what of this yarn I can cast on pretty quickly and get some projects started now that my brain is freed up from designing for the past 2 months. Really, like it was at the end of April that Natalie reached out to me about my patterns, so it's like the end of April through like the very beginning of July my brain has been booked, so now I can cast on all the things. Okay, so I have my list right here of books I've been reading, I want to talk about books first before I talk about life stuff. Books have been bringing me a lot of joy recently, and I've really picked up momentum. I think when I finally did all the math, I read 34 books or 35 books in the first half of the year, which is incredible to me. I have always been a reader, but only recently have I really gotten into it again as I've been working again, and so going on long drives for work, and also needing some quiet time without my phone before bedtime. It's just been a really nice solace to do that, and even like delve into the world of like booktube and watch booktubers and gain recommendations and learn about books and authors and just like broaden my horizons as far as like reading goes has been really nice. I definitely went in a slump when I kind of started aging out of young adult books and was moving into adult books, I had a hard time finding the books that I liked in the adult genre. And now I feel like I've got a better idea of what I enjoy enough to read. And I'm kind of trying to pick out what I'll enjoy on an audiobook as I'm driving for work, because I'm doing so much driving, versus what I want to have in my library long term, what I think I'll reread, what's really special to me, what are like 4 and 5 star reads. So I'm kind of getting a better sense of what I anticipate will kind of fall into those categories, and it's given me a lot of joy in my reading habits too. Whew, how many books? Let me see how many books I've read, how many books I've finished since I last talked to you. 12 books. And I have another one that I'm working on that I'm about halfway through on. 12 books in a month-ish, a month and a half-ish. That's awesome. I have maybe half of them here with me because the other half I do audiobooks. I don't really borrow physical books from the library because deadlines stress me out with all the other deadlines and things going on in my brain. And so I do audiobooks through the library, which is really nice because then when the deadline hits, it just disappears and it's not my problem anymore. So it's been way nicer to do that. And yeah, but I've also been purchasing more books from my local bookstore, and so that's been really fun to support a local bookstore and to like have that experience of going there and shopping. And I'm excited to show my mom that local bookstore when she comes out and visits in a couple weeks. So it's been a good mix of audiobooks and physical books, and my audiobooks are all borrowed. Physical books are all purchased, basically. And then I've been reading on Kindle, but very, very slowly through Emma by Jane Austen. I'm rereading that. So yeah, let's get right into it. As I talk briefly about each of these books, if I have it, I'll show it to you. If I don't, then I may try to put up a picture so you can kind of get a sense for what book I'm referring to. But I'm gonna try to go quickly so I can obsess about the books that I'm obsessed with, and I can move on from the books that I'm not. So, first book I finished, Finlay, Donovan Knocks 'em Dead by Elle Cosimano. I felt the same about this book that I did about the previous one, in that it was intriguing, it kept me hooked, but it also drove me bonkers. I don't really like the main characters like a ton. I find them funny sometimes, but sometimes they're very aggravating. So I think it's not exactly the right book for me, but it's interesting enough. I planned to read the third book, but I definitely needed a break from the angst of the incompetence that some of these characters were going through. I think I gave it somewhere in the 3-ish star range. Legends and Lattes. This one has been all over online by Travis Baldree. It's a cozy fantasy about an orc named Viv who leaves behind her life as a barbarian, basically. I don't know exactly if that's what she is. She's a battle-weary orc. Don't know if she's a barbarian class or a fighter class or what, but in that realm, I think she's a barbarian. But she leaves behind that life to pursue building a coffee shop. There's a little bit of a romance between her and this chica right here, this tiefling, and it's very subtle. It's a very slow book. It was very enjoyable. It was perfect vibes for curling up on a couch under a blanket with a hot drink, maybe by a fireplace. It was perfect vibes for reading a chapter or two at night before bed, but then just going to sleep right afterwards. I know some people read it in like a sitting or two, like they breezed through this. It was slow for me. And that's one of the reasons why it's not a 5-star read. I gave it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. I felt like there was a lot of depth to the characters that wasn't explored, but was definitely there. Like the point of this book was not the depth of the characters. I understand exactly what Travis Baldree was doing, and I really liked it. And I want more of his work. I want more of these characters. It was really enjoyable. I liked it, but also there wasn't like a ton of plot. The stakes were pretty low. There was nothing compelling me to keep moving through the book other than I liked having that cozy fantasy reading time right before bed. So overall, great book, but it might not be for you, but it's been for a lot of people. So if you like D&D, if you like fantasy stories, if you like coffee or cafes in general, that vibe, that atmosphere, this book will definitely be for you. The next book I finished was Crazy Rich Asians by Kwan, and I'd started this book previously a couple years ago and I'd stopped because there's quite a bit of it that is kind of vulgar and I just did not want that. It was not the right kind of book for me, and I was maybe more mature to handle it the second time reading through, but I really wanted to know like what happened at the end, so I figured it might be a fun fluffy read to get to. And so I think I started it in May, but I finished it in June and I enjoyed it, but not like a ton. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. There were lots of name dropping, lots of like throwing around like luxury brands and like all sorts of like intriguing characters that are like super rich. I don't know, it's a very different world that was built, even though the world building was just the rich people in Asia, so very different demographic. And so it was interesting, it was intriguing. I'm not sure how much of it is based on truth. It was intriguing, not a lot of depth, but it was fun. And then my next book was Austenland. Also just got like a 3.5 star. I'm in an Austen mood. I have an Austen yarn, reading Emma by Jane Austen. I've been wanting to rewatch some of the movies, and I thought now is the time to read Austenland. And you know what? This book really just made me want to watch the movie because the movie is better. Every great thing from the book was in the movie, and they did such a good job bringing it to life. It just made me want to watch the movie, and it was not a bad book. It was a good book. It was a solid book. But the reason I liked this book was because I've seen the movie and I love the movie. And I also feel like a couple plot points in the book were just streamlined in the movie to make it like easier to get behind like main characters, I guess, and to like understand their story and to like understand their predicaments. I feel like whoever did the movie did an amazing job. Solid book, not my favorite. I'll probably read the next one, which is Midnight in Austenland, but definitely an audiobook. I don't think I will purchase the actual book because I don't think I'll necessarily want to keep it forever. I'll probably keep this book until I give it to someone who will want to read it, and then I'll be okay with it leaving my bookshelf. The next book I read was called The Devil Wears Scrubs by Frida McFadden, who writes a lot of mystery, thriller type of books, and I saw that this book was really short, like a 6-hour reading time, and then if you listen to it on like 1.5 or 2 speed, then it's even faster. So I thought I'll do it. It's a comedic little book. Not for me. Like a 2.5 star, I think I gave it. 2.25, like pretty low. I did not really enjoy it. There were definitely lots of funny parts that made me laugh, but I didn't really care for the characters. I didn't really care for where the plot was going. I didn't really appreciate the struggles that the main character was going through, probably because I work in a hospital setting, and so I did not like hearing about the doctors like eating their young and like being totally unreasonable with the interns and expecting so much from them and not like teaching them properly. Like it just really like made me bristle a lot, and so I didn't really enjoy that. I didn't really see a point in the plot either. I liked the sexy surgeon, that was kind of fun, but like overall I just didn't really enjoy the book. I like had to wade through it just to get to the end. I almost DNF'd it when I was halfway through because I was just like, is it worth this time? And I still finished it, but I don't necessarily feel happy that I finished it. So not for me, maybe for someone else. The next book I read was also a dud. It was Queen Charlotte by Shonda Rhimes and Julie Quinn, and I was really hoping to like this because I do like the Bridgerton books. They're not amazing, like they're like a solid like 3.5 to 4 star, you know, they're something I enjoy but not anything super literarily profound. But this book was like a 2.25. It was my lowest rating for sure. The writing style, it did not sound like Julie Quinn. It was not written like her other books. And I know that there was another author influencing that, but I didn't enjoy it. It did not feel like her other books. There was a lot of drama that I felt like didn't need to be there, with like the miscommunication trope and whatnot. I didn't appreciate the mental health viewpoint that this book took. It was very vague. It wasn't very historically accurate either to the minimal records we do have of King George and his mental struggles. The way that it was portrayed in this book was not congruous with history. And I also feel like it just wasn't like portraying mental illness in like the best way. I don't know. I feel like they missed the mark. It left me with kind of a sour taste in my mouth. I feel like personally he has more of like a manic, depressive, like a bipolar disorder or something along those lines. But in the book, they portrayed him as being more like schizophrenic, maybe. But then, yeah, I don't know. It was just like not, I was not jiving with it. And I have not seen the Netflix show, so take that for what you will. But it just wasn't for me. And lots of unnecessary drama. It was a disappointing book for me, to be honest. And like, I know that Queen Charlotte was young, but she was kind of immature, and so was he. And I hated the immature fights that they had. Like, were just really like annoying. It felt like they were young adults and not literal adults that are king and queen. Lots of immaturity that really bothered me too. But then I read Beach Read by my beloved Emily Henry, and I love her books. I read People We Meet on Vacation a long time ago, right when it first came out, and I was like, oh yeah, I like this book. I'm gonna reread it again now that I've read her other books and I'm kind of in the Emily Henry train of thought. I love Beach Read. Again, it's a 5-star. I love her works. I heard that she has some other books written before this contemporary romance phase, and so I definitely want to try her older books too, because I've heard really good things about them. Beach Read. I wish I'd taken this on my beach lake vacation, because this would have been perfect. I cried more than once. Lots of feelings. Some parts were a little bit cheesy, but I really, really liked it. I had so much fun, and I loved seeing the slow burn of their relationship change. It just made me the warm and fuzzies. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, this year I've read 3 of her books, and I want to reread People We Meet on Vacation now that I have a little bit of a fresh perspective about it. And then maybe I'll move to her older books too. The next book I read, I listened to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and this was a good book. I think I rated it 4.25 stars. There were some things I didn't like. There was like one moment about like 70% of the way through the book that like really skewed the book for me in a bad way. I liked how flawed the characters were in like a very realistic way. Like, I could totally picture some people I know acting like that. It's very interesting. It's very interesting to just follow the timeline of things over many, many years. It got a little confusing on audiobook when they were switching back and forth between timelines and back and forth between formats. Like, sometimes they were in like a video game type of format, and sometimes they were in real life. And so I think the physical book would be a little bit easier to follow and might have rated it a little bit higher, but the audiobook was just a little bit hard to follow for that reason. Definitely check the trigger warnings for this book. But I enjoyed it. I may purchase a copy to have on my bookshelf in the future, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if I'll reread it or if I just want it as like a little trophy. Like, this is a good book that I think a lot of people should read. I don't know, but I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm not a video game person, but I still really enjoyed the thematic elements of it and the storylines related to games. I feel like I still got as much out of it, even though I'm not a gamer. Oh my gosh, this next book, Fourth Freaking Wing. I have the stenciled version. I need to place my pre-order for the next book, probably from Barnes & Noble, just so I can make sure I get the stenciled edition for the next time if they have it available. We'll see if they do. If not, then I'll just pre-order from my local bookstore. But love, love, love this book. I think I rated it a 4.5 star. This is the perfect dystopian fantasy, YA dystopian fantasy. it read like a really well written YA dystopian fantasy novel, except for lots of death. Not a lot of like gore or like graphic death, but lots of death. There's some sexual content, a couple spicy scenes, and there's a lot of language, which I feel like, other than the spicy scenes, which I love me a spicy scene, I felt like the language was just put into the book to prove that it's an adult novel and not a young adult novel, if that makes sense. So that was like my only like qualms about it. I feel like the language didn't really fit the characters very well. I feel like it was just thrown in there for like added effect. I don't know, I didn't really like it. I feel like if you took out the language and the sexual content, or like made it more of a closed door romance, this is totally a YA novel. So keep that in mind. If you like the idea of a dystopian fantasy novel for a mature YA audience that involves dragons and war politics, then this is the book for you. This is the first in a series of 5. The next book is coming out later this year, I think. I loved it. 4.5 stars. Some people couldn't get into it. Some people don't like it. I know there's been a lot of hype, but I really loved it. It was such an easy, captivating read that was also like a well-written book, but definitely leaned more YA for me, which is not a bad thing, but a well-written YA. Like, it reminded me of Hunger Games in a big way, which is a compliment. I also read the next book in the School by the Sea series by Jenny Colgan. I read Lessons at the School by the Sea, and this one was pretty short. It was like only 6.5, 7 hours to listen to. I just finished the second book, I think, last month, and I was like, man, this series is going on for forever. Why? There's 4 books in the series. The 4th one has not come out yet, but I read this book. Finally, we've got a little bit of closure. Stuff is finally happening. I'm glad, but it was also kind of like the tension was there the whole book, and it was a little bit annoying, but also kind of understandable, but a little bit annoying. And it's hard when like the love interests have miscommunication, but like it makes sense, but also it's like, just be honest with yourself about how you feel and don't like look into things the wrong way. Like, it just bothered me how she was assuming one thing about his actions when he was really just awkward. Didn't mean he didn't care, he just didn't know what to do. I don't know. Anyway, I'm excited to read the 4th book and to be done with the series and have some closure. I've enjoyed it in like a 3-star way. Next book that I read, I purchased this one, and I had bought this book without knowing anything about it, like just from seeing it in the bookstore and like being intrigued. It says, everyone in my family has killed someone. It's a comedic murder mystery, and literally everyone has killed someone in some way, shape, or form. And throughout the book, you learn about these different stories of how people kill someone, and some of the stories coincide with the present day murder mystery that's happening, and some of them are from like the past. So it's really interesting to kind of see those things unfold. The comedy it's definitely written by a comedian, so it was more slapstick kind of comedy, so not my exact taste. I really prefer a dry wit, like a British humor. The narrator and their family is from Australia, so I think just a little bit different type of humor that wasn't exactly my style, but it was like a 4.25 star for me. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It kept me interested. There was a couple really big twists at the end, one of which left more questions than it answered, unfortunately for me. So that was like lack of closure. But I enjoyed this book. If you were looking for a lighthearted comedic murder mystery, this could be for you. Then I just finished today China Rich Girlfriend on my driving around today, and this is another book by Kevin Kwan. It's the second book in the Crazy Rich Asian series. I enjoyed this book more than the last one, surprisingly, and I think it's just because it's not like everyone against Rachel and like all that bullying and the undercurrents. I just didn't really enjoy that reading experience, but I do feel like the story was better written in the first book than in the second book. In the second book, it felt like nothing happened for 70% of the book, and then in the last chunk, a ton of drama happened that kind of came out of nowhere, felt a little unnecessary, and some things just started getting resolved, but like not entirely. So we'll see, I guess, if the third book feels like a good continuation of the second book, or if it also takes place a little bit of time after the second book, because there was a gap in between the first and second books in the timelines of things. So I enjoyed it a little bit more because I enjoyed the reading experience more, but it was not as good of a book, if that makes sense to me personally. I'm also in the middle of, this is the last book I'm going to talk about. This is The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. So I'm a little bit more than halfway through this book. This is a weird book too. I'm definitely exploring a lot more with my book tastes. I bought this book because the cover is amazing. I love it, and the story was intriguing. It is a fantastical historical romance, so set in like the 1800s maybe, but in like an alternate reality where in the 16 or 1700s, women in high-class society found magic to fly their houses. And so they decided to become pirates and kind of like take control of things by murdering people and stealing things from other prominent people and like backstabbing, forming alliances, flying their houses all over the place. They're pirates, but in like a magical, mystical sense. There's not a lot of magic. It's mostly just flying their houses from what I can tell. But there might be other little sprinklings of magic throughout. But they are pirates, but they are well-mannered pirates. And so there's an assassination attempt, and she's like, we haven't been introduced yet on a first name basis, so please be polite and don't murder me on the streets. Like things like that. So it's just like a really quirky type of atmosphere in the book. There's a love interest who is also a pirate, but maybe honorable. He has like a lot of different stories behind him, and you're not quite sure exactly which side he's on. But I do like the main characters. I think this book is very plucky and witty, but also kind of weird. So I'm enjoying it, but also you need to be in the right mind frame to like understand what's going on, just because it is so different mentally than like where my brain is normally. So I'm enjoying it. I might do an audiobook for the second book and see if I like it better, if it like sinks in my brain a little bit easier that way, but we'll see. I enjoy it, but it's weird. Yes, that's a good way to describe it. So those are my books, and holy crap, I've been filming for like an hour. So let's wrap this up really quick. Thank you so much for being here and for wanting to hear all about everything with me. Not a lot has happened other than like my pattern releases, which I've already talked about. I'm doing the Utah yarn crawl right now, so there is a vlog coming soon where I'm actually going to visit everything, I think, because I've been able to work it out with my schedule. I still have 3 more stops to make on Thursday this week, but then I'll have made it, which is really cool to think about. So I have that coming soon. I have the Stephen West MCAL that is coming soon, so hopefully I'll do a vlog or 2 for that. We were just on vacation. I did do a lot of night shifts, and so I went from like 3 night shifts after doing like a week of night shifts. I went back and I did 3 night shifts, and then I went on vacation. So my sense of time is like still adjusting and recovering from like all that going on. But we went up to Bear Lake, which is on the border of Utah and Idaho, and we met up with family and some family friends, and we did like a big camping trip. So we went camping and we went to the lake a couple days and got some nice sun. I got to do some paddleboarding, and my thighs are still really sore from trying to balance on the paddleboard. I even stood up for a little bit. That was so fun. I did lots of beach knitting and some reading of books. It's nice to spend time with family and have them be responsible for my daughter too, so I can get a little bit of a breather and I'm not like 100% having to focus on her. Just to be able to like pass the baton is really nice, and it's really nice for her. She was saying today, she's 2.5. She was telling me today that her best friends are grandma and grandpa. They're so cute. So it's really nice to be able to live close enough to them that we can see them quite frequently and be able to do family trips like that. So I'm glad that we were able to do that, spend a couple days up there. And then on our drive back down, we hit a couple yarn stores because the yarn crawl started that Saturday. So that's kind of all that's been going on with us. Thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. And even as it's gone late and now it's been dark and my lighting is not great, thank you so much for sticking around. I'm so happy to have you here. We are on our way to 1,000 subscribers, which is a super exciting milestone. So let me know down below what projects you're working on and what books you are reading, because I love to hear from you, and having this community and the chance to discuss with you is really my favorite thing about having this YouTube channel. I also started a Threads account, so follow me on there because that's definitely better for like having more conversations and more back and forth of talking. So definitely follow me on my social medias. They are all linked down below, and as well as my new patterns that I just released. And I think that is everything, but until next time, happy making. Bye.